Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Citrus Preps podcast alongside Mike Deem. I'm Brett Knudsen as we stream and move quickly towards spring break.
Ides of March are here.
Yeah, they're here. I mean, ready or not.
Actually, they're almost gone.
Yeah, it is almost gone. Spring break for schools in the county, just a few days away, a couple of days away. So that'll be a little break from competition. And boy, it seems like after, Mike, you get back from spring break, it's over.
It's gone.
So it won't be long before we get into the spring sports district tournaments and then into the state tournaments. And also, by the way, we're not too far away from spring football practice as schools get ready, coaches get excited. When you played, did you have spring practice?
Yes, sir, we did.
As a player, obviously it's fun to get back out there and go through it. A lot of kids, I think most of the kids, coaches at least, hope that they're playing other sports, right? Hopefully running track and doing other things.
Yeah.
But, spring, we've seen the importance of spring football, especially for young teams and experienced teams. And I would assume with Coach O'Brien at Citrus, an important spring practice to maybe start installing some of the things that he wants to do.
That engaging the players that he has existing, and then also seeing what's coming out for next year. Weightlifting's a big deal. It's still going on right now. So they're doing that. Citrus, by the way, is doing very well in weightlifting.
Didn't Lecanto win the district tournament last week? And they hosted it?
Yeah, they're all doing really well. I mean, from a standpoint of that, you'll see how they come through on that. But spring ball is definitely important. In Florida, it's one of the ones that contributes to all the big time programs in this state, and a lot of the athletes going to schools out of state. So it's important for the coaches. It's important. I believe it's important for the athletes. Even though you're playing, I played baseball. It ended up, we still just kind of twisted between baseball and football. When the coaches let us, and I would assume that would happen here at the high schools here.
Yeah, so it gets to be a busy time when you get to April and then in May and then the spring football games. And, with the way the summer break goes, it's like 10 weeks and then, 7 or 8 weeks and you're back into football. And we'll get into that. We've talked about it a lot with the football and the reclassification in the districts and everything that happened. We mentioned it last week. I don't know if we tweeted it out when it did happen, but the winter sports reclassifications came out, and interesting, I guess. Here you can take a quick look at it. This is for basketball, boys and girls. Lecanto knew they were going to move up. They've changed. There was 9 classifications this year at the state basketball tournament. We're down to 7, so they made it smaller, and 7 in independent. So Lecanto goes into 5A5. And, it looks like it's a travel nightmare, but remember, it's not, because you're not playing these teams.
You don't have to play.
You don't have to play them in regular season. Lecanto's in there with Lake Weir, Leesburg, Jones, Bellevue, Vanguard, and Lake Minneola. 4A6 becomes Crystal River Citrus, the Villages, South Sumter, Hernando Central, and Weeki Wachee. That's a nice, tidy little district. Yeah,
it is, and you expect them to still play each other because it's right around the corner, and plus there's some pretty good games there.
Yeah, I did talk to Ron Allen, the AD at Lecanto last week about this, and they're still moving forward with the old Gulf Coast Athletic Conference.
Oh, GAC, that's good.
Yeah, that they're gonna have that, so that will be part of the schedule, and it will be the 3 from this county, and then the 5 down south in Hernando County. So you will have, for basketball, 14 games scheduled. You'll play home and home with the other 7 schools. So you've got that in your scheduling for boys and girls basketball.
And that's easier on the coaches. At least they know they got 7 games scheduled. They just have to work on the rest.
Yeah, you got to get the rest. And so I'd imagine you'll see a lot of the same things in terms of scheduling like we've had over the last couple of years, because I think people are still trying to figure out how it's going to work with the Max Preps rankings. Once again, as we said, with those district assignments, those are for your district tournament. District tournament only. Do not need to play any of those schools in the regular season. There is no regular season district champion. They will come together before the district tournament, take a look at the Max Preps rankings, seed the district tournament, and I guess determine the host of the district tournament. That will be predetermined. And then you will go play that district tournament. Again, the change in basketball, just the district tournament champion is automatically into the state playoffs. You're placed into a region with 4 other districts, so you'll have 4 district champions, and then you will have 4 wild cards based on the Max Preps rankings. Those rankings to seed for the playoffs and who gets the 4 wild cards will also include the district tournament. So you do well at your district tournament against some like competition, you have a chance to move up, and it'll be interesting to see how the Max Preps rankings work. And when I was talking to Coach Allen, and I mentioned that I looked a little bit at the Max Preps rankings this year in the middle of the season, and they were pretty reflective of where the district standings were on the boys and girls side. I mean, there was a couple, pretty close. I mean, there's going to be some, some interesting things. The one thing that I think that I don't know how big of a deal it will be. You had, Trenton, for instance, on the girls' side was I think the 1A state champion, 29, 30-0. You play them, you get credit for beating a team that's 29-0.
From last year?
Not for next year, but it's
right.
a 1A school, so it doesn't hurt you even though you play a 1A school. Now, if you want, if you're a 5A school, it doesn't help you if you're a 5A school and you go up and play a 6A, or let's say you're Citrus or Crystal River and you schedule Lecanto. It doesn't help you because they are a higher classification. Doesn't make a difference. It helps you if they have a good season,
right? And
they have a good record. That will help you.
So what you're saying is, over the body of the work of the season, it'll turn differently based on what your opponent's records will be.
Yeah, that's So
you want them to be successful.
Yeah,
wherever you play,
you want to, but you also want to be able to beat them too, right?
That's kind of what I was saying.
So that's the double-edged sword. So if you're a school from around here, do you want to go play 1A Trenton, or on the boys' side, a talented Wildwood team or something? Like, do you want to play them knowing that they're going to have a good record? Well, if you think you can beat them, you do. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, moving forward. I mean, and if you look at the hoops, we'll put it back up there. The interesting thing, I think, for Crystal River and Citrus and Hernando Central and Weeki Wachee too, the noticeable difference in that district, 2 noticeable differences. Lecanto's out because they move up,
right,
but not in the district tournament.
Right.
So, is that
county champions or district champions? So,
yeah,
definitely got to watch out for that. It's going to be a little tough for Lecanto. Crystal River, Dunellen, Citrus, Wildwood, and South Sumter.
Weeki Wachee, I'm sorry. And South Sumter. That's a nice close
That's a
district.
nice one there.
Yeah. Citrus on the boys' side had a solid year this year, and if you look at that district, they get rid of a couple of thorns in their side.
I was going to say that could actually propel them a little bit more. That's going to be good. So see what they play outside of that district, to see what their tournament goes. That although they've been doing really well with the coach they have now is pushing them on different levels and pushing them into different tournaments. So he should be doing well now.
So that will be interesting. We talked about the changes for the football season. So when we start the new school year, it's a lot of changes, and it will start with the football. Of course, the PowerPoint system used for 2 years is gone. We've talked about this a lot just to refresh folks' memory if you need to be refreshed. And now they're going to the RPI, which is essentially the strength of schedule. We'll see how that works out and what difference it makes moving forward for the high school football teams. We'll talk about that as we get closer to the start of the season and how that affects what they do. Look, there were complaints before we got to the PowerPoints about having 3-team districts where 2 teams got into the playoffs out of the 3. That didn't make a lot of people happy. There were complaints about the PowerPoint. There was last year an 0-10 team that made it to the state playoffs. That drew a lot of ire of people around the state. Doesn't mean it didn't work. It just means that there are loopholes and there are things that you can't always account for. Doesn't mean the system doesn't work. There will be some things with the RPI where people will go, whoa, this team should not be in. This one should have been. And
you can pick apart anything and you can find fault at anything. So
it's just like you're going to people talk talk about for 2 days the NCAA tournament field that was just announced.
Just going to bring that up.
The ones that were on the bubble, and the bottom line, I think it's usually teams that didn't take care of business that are arguing over why we didn't get in. And I think most coaches will say, look, if we take care of business, we don't have anything to worry about. It'll take care of itself. There are some times where
there's anomalies everywhere.
You look at you just hope it's not you. And you hope
don't let yourself be an anomaly. Just
win some football games. But interesting to see how that works.
By the way, you said March Madness. Want to congratulate FSU. Florida and UCF for making the dance.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, three clubs,
3 teams make it in, and it's interesting as they all get into the tournament gets underway. I guess it started yesterday and today with the first 4, but Thursday and Friday where it takes off. Florida had a good run in the SEC tournament. Playing some pretty good basketball. I mean, they've been inconsistent this year, but they're a scary team, I think, to play in the tournament.
Well, so is FSU. That's what I.
Well, FSU is too. They're kind of the. I don't want to say forgotten, but I mean, you got 3 ACC schools that are number 1 seeds, and then you've got the 4th place FSU that goes in as a 4 seed. They could, if they win 2 games this weekend, could see Gonzaga, and they saw them last year. It's kind of weird. Last year they had to play Xavier for the 2nd year in a row of the tournament. They lost to them 2 years ago, beat them last year. Now this time around they could see Gonzaga, who they beat last year. I'm sure the Bulldogs would love to see. That'd be an interesting matchup because Gonzaga's a good basketball team.
It would, yeah, definitely.
I was just surprised to see 3 ACC teams as number 1 seeds. That's
yeah, that's where the anomaly is.
ACC in basketball and SEC bias in football. I guess that's kind of how it works. So, enjoy filling out your brackets. Enjoy trying to win whatever you win, but also enjoy the madness that will start tomorrow. That should be a lot of fun. Also, as we talked about, we are in the middle of the spring sports. Here's some updated standings on the softball side. Dunellen.
Coach Dennis Jenkins.
Coach Dennis Jenkins is a
monster.
Is doing what he's done for
ages.
He's got talent. There's some quality.
Fagan being there. That's a Fagan name, let's put it that way.
And they're out to a 5-0, 10-1 start. Crystal River hanging around at 3-1. Springstead at 4-2. Citrus at 2-3. Lecanto 1-4. And Weeki Wachee is 0-5. Last night, Crystal River knocked off Lecanto 7-3. It was early offense for Crystal River as they scored 3 in the first, 1 in the second, 1 in the third, and 2 in the fourth. So consistently piling on runs as they knocked off Lecanto 7-3 to move to 3-1 in district play. So certainly looks like Crystal River and Dunellen at the top of that district would go in as the top 2 seeds if it ended today, but obviously there's still some more softball to be played, so we'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll get Coach Jenkins on the phone and get a little interview for him with him.
And see what he has to say
about coming up with the district championships coming up.
Yeah, should be interesting. As he's like I said, he's been doing this a while, knows the game, and has got obviously some talent. The talent pool at Dunellen is pretty good.
He's got talent and he knows how to use it. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it certainly does, and doing well with the Lady Tigers. On the boys baseball side, there's 3 games tonight. Lecanto is at Nature Coast. Vanguard is at Crystal River. Central is at Citrus. None of those are district games. Here's the district standings. Springstead at 4-0. Dunellen at 3-1. Lecanto 2-2. Crystal River at 2-2. Interesting with Crystal River, a tough 1-run loss to Springstead. Mm-hmm. They hung around nicely for Coach Deming and his team, and they had a tough loss to Dunellen as well, where they kind of felt like they got one away. So, I mean, they're probably thinking, man, we're just a couple runs away from being at the top of the district. Instead, we're tied for 3rd place right now. So
long season to go. They still got time.
Yeah, plenty to go, and it'll be interesting. I mean, Springstead has been the dominant team in that district, and so far they continue to show that. But as I said, I think Crystal River feels like they've closed the gap a little bit. I think Dunellen feels like that they've closed the gap as well. So that'll be interesting moving into the district tournament, the back half of the district schedule, as we get into that, to see if anybody can knock off Springstead and make a run into the state tournament. Citrus had a nice run last year. And also congratulations to Coach Travis Phillips and the Seven Rivers
I was just going to say,
baseball team
doing really well.
Off to an undefeated start to the season, playing really good baseball. They are scoring a ton of runs. They are not giving up a lot of runs.
And he thought he was rebuilding.
Yeah, I talked to him, end of the summer last year, and he lost a lot. He lost his son who went down south to play JUCO baseball. He's got another one that moved on to play at Florida State, and he was had kind of a wry smile. I'm kind of looking forward to this season because everybody thinks we're going to be down. And so far, so good. A good teacher of the game, and there's some talent inside that Seven Rivers program, and you can see by the number of kids who are getting looks to college baseball.
Big time,
they're moving on.
They got 3 or 4 D1 prospects.
Yeah, speaking of that, had a former Citrus High player, Austin Bogart, is doing great things at Stetson. Is having a great run. That's a baseball program that really sort of jumped on the map last year, hosting an NCAA regional, and Austin doing a good job there as well.
Have you been to that school?
Yes, I have.
That's a beautiful school.
There's some, and they redid their baseball facility. There's some, you wonder, especially with baseball. I don't know if basketball ever get to that point, but you start pumping in some money, and it'll be interesting to see where that program takes off. You've seen it with those second tier baseball teams. I say second tier, not Florida State or Miami, but FIU and FAU have had some good teams. UCF has had some. You wonder if now Stetson in a really, really good spot in the state to recruit outside of Orlando. You can easily get over to the Space Coast area, and you can get down into Miami too. So
it's a little like the small market Gonzagas that used to be, before they moved up. They were small, and then they're now prominent, basketball programs.
Remember, baseball, you're only dealing with, I think it's 11.5 scholarships. So you're
halving them. You're doing this and doing that.
Yeah, and so it's not like you really have to. You're not going after the kids that FSU and Florida, Miami don't want. You can go after them just as good, and you can offer them the 0.25 scholarship or the 0.33 scholarship and get some quality players. So it's pretty interesting in baseball. And you're right, Stetson's got things going in the right direction. The Gators continue to be a top team in college baseball. They had a rough weekend, losing 2 out of 3 to Mississippi State. Florida State had a tough week too. They got beat up by the Gators midweek and then lost 2 out of 3 to NC State. So interesting as we roll into baseball as well. And speaking of baseball, major leagues, spring training coming to a close. Interesting with the Rays. What are they going to be like? The sad part is I think there's a lot of optimism about what they are going to be like on the field. Charlie Morton on the mound could be a huge addition to Blake Snell. They coming off an unbelievable season last year.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed with the Rays on Blake Snell's re-up. But that'll come back to bite him in the butt. So
it always does. But the bigger issue is is this a short term?
It is.
Fans,
it is.
As they, there's all sorts of talk. So
we can go
until
into that
things
for the
move
whole
forward, we're going to be stuck with a team that's in limbo, and we don't know.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, we'll talk real quick. NFL obviously wasn't a huge surprise. Quan Alexander
lost to
the 49ers.
Lost a couple of them. They picked up some free agents, though. Some FAs. Also linebacker Shaq Barrett, safety Kentrell Bryce, linebacker Deion Buchanan, wide receiver Brashad Perriman, punter Bradley Pinion, and guard Earl Watford. Now, Buchanan and Barrett were to be the 2. Bryce was something that you could live without. We need a safety, but Perriman's kind of he's a flash. He's going to be Deshaun Jackson, 1.1, not 2.0.
Not as fast, but not as much distractions.
They're going to move Godwin into the slot, and that'll take Humphrey's spot, who, by the way, went to the Titans. So, we lost some good players, but we gained some what we need to get back there. It'll be, of course, up to the draft to really kind of fill some holes that we need. and I will be there. I'm heading up to Nashville again for the weekend with my buddy Joe Bell, and we'll make sure that we get all the information that you need.
That'll be fun. Nashville's Nashville's turned into the new Orleans, the new place to be.
Yeah,
it's a fun city.
It is a fun city,
and the
especially
NFL,
nightlife.
plenty to do there. Interesting too. Trades in the NFL usually aren't a very big deal. You don't see a ton of it happen. We always say you build through the draft, but what do you make of what in the world all of a sudden has happened in Cleveland? OBJ goes there.
Well done.
Wow.
Well done. That's going to be a potent. I mean, they're already putting themselves in a position to be in the playoffs.
It's crazy. They had such a great year last year in terms of Cleveland. I mean,
Right.
with the number of wins,
Yeah.
they fired their coach a quarter of the way through the season. Baker Mayfield just exploded. I guess I wonder is he sort of Johnny Manziel-esque in terms of did he fly high fast and is going to come crashing down, or is he sustainable? I mean, I don't think he's the off-field Johnny Manziel, but
I think he's Drew Brees. I think he's Drew Brees. That can be Drew Brees. He's got the it factor, and that's the issue that, Drew Brees was a journeyman for a little while, but then he found his spot. And I think what happened was Baker Mayfield found the spot real early, got the coach fired. That there was some issues there.
But the team took off afterwards.
Exactly.
He certainly seems to be a leader.
Right.
I think he's one of those guys that
he's fiery.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that you hear athletes talk about, the kind of guy that you love to have in your locker room, but you hate to play against.
Yes,
probably.
yes.
He's going to irritate the dickens out of everybody in their division, having to play him twice a year. But, they seem to follow him. And, I mean, it'd be interesting because, Baker's a big personality.
OBJ coming in.
OBJ is a big personality, but if they both are there for the right reasons, and you assume they are to win a championship,
that could be potent.
They've got a running attack, they've got a really good defense. I mean, so I would talk about Cleveland to talk about Tampa, saying you can have a lot of bad things happen in your organization over a long period of time. A couple of really good moves and the right people in the right place can change the direction of your franchise.
Just like that.
Now, it doesn't mean Cleveland's going to win 13 games and go to the Super Bowl, but, boy, on paper, they look like they've become one of the I mean, on paper, they're better than the Patriots, right?
Yeah. Well, let's calm down a little bit.
Well, on paper. I mean, now, is anybody going to pick Cleveland to go to?
Vegas, look at the Vegas odds, and you take a look at what they're looking. So
they went way up.
They went way up. So you're already seeing the guys who know what they're doing looking at this and saying, okay, we got to put this down and say, hey, they're going to be somewhere. So.
Wouldn't it be fun though if it worked out next year where Cleveland would get to host a playoff game against the Patriots? Belichick coming back to Cleveland,
first circle, baby,
to play as an aging Tom Brady. Who knows what he's got left? Gronkowski, we don't know if he's gonna.
He's not even gonna be there. We don't know.
That would be interesting. But more importantly for the Bucs, I think it shows if it takes some time. It's not easy to get it turned around. Maybe they can. The draft will be big. You've talked about it. They got to go defense.
Remember how many picks they had? They picked up a lot of guys, and that's what you got to build from that point. And I think that's what the Bucs are looking at too. Is I don't know what they're going to do in the draft, and actually we'll get into it later on. A couple more podcasts ahead of the draft, but I'll talk about some of the guys I think they're targeting from a standpoint of what they need on defense and offense, and that's where I think they got to build it up. We still have a little bit of time in free agency, but I don't know if they're going to do that much. They don't have a lot of cap space, so it's really hard for them to do anything in a free agency anyway.
I think you still got to figure out somebody to tote the ball consistently at running back. I mean, I know they don't. They need a guy.
They're hoping that Jones blossoms, but then they also picked up Ellington, who's an outside swing man with a passing game. So
which I assume puts Jacquizz Rodgers out of the equation.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so he's done.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. And I mean, the number one question on offense obviously is what kind of arc does Jameis Winston have with Bruce Arians? I mean, the one thing we've seen with the Saints and some other teams, if your quarterback is playing at a high level, you don't have to have a great big name running back to get. I mean, you can go out there and toss the ball around and win a lot of games. This is today's NFL.
You got to have that continuity for the offensive head, which is Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
And, Bruce Arians has already said, BA said, I'm backing him at 100%. That's why Fitzpatrick is gone, is he's a starter for the Dolphins. Welcome to him.
That was you see that all the time in the NFL, and I don't think it's a knock on Jameis Winston and his mental frame of mind, but I think it's just okay. Let's clear the deck.
Clear it out.
You've got nobody pushing you.
Right, and him and Griffin are buddies. The backup Griffin is they signed him. They're buddies. That he understands what that is.
Help each other. He knows his role. And I'm not saying Fitzpatrick was a bad teammate.
No,
not
a
good guy.
No,
he just proved to be good enough to make that quarterback job a question.
Exactly.
Now you don't have it. You clear it out. Jameis, this is your team again. This is your chance.
This is the last year.
This is it. And, does he get it? I don't think it's, to me, it's not does he get it, does he understand that this is just, I think he gets that part.
Can he execute?
Is the physical tools and the mental execution combined going to work?
Right there, the second part of that is the physical tools are all there.
Right.
The mental execution along with the physical tools makes the difference. That's where the difference comes in from my standpoint, is that can he make the right call in his mind about not throwing the ball or throwing the ball? There's a lot of things that he's done in the past. You've seen it. It's throw it up and see if it happens. But there's a difference between throwing it up and throwing it up in triple coverage versus one-on-one with Mike Evans. There's differences there.
You got an offensive coordinator that is not too far removed from standing in the same shoes as Jameis Winston.
Right.
And I'm not saying that the Bucs have had bad offensive coordinators that, Dirk Cutter and Jameis blossomed and it worked well. But, now you've got somebody in there that, maybe this is the push forward. Maybe there's just a little more rapport.
I think that's going to be a huge thing. Byron Leftwich is also, touted, and there's rumors of that, he's the second coming of the head coach for the Buccaneers. But who knows?
But the interesting thing about Leftwich is too. I mean, he wasn't as talented as Jameis was in college, but he was a good college quarterback
and he was
at Marshall. And then, he sort of pushed himself to being a better NFL quarterback than most people thought he was. Maybe there's some of that talk in the QB room that can help Jameis. I just did this, man. I know what you're going through.
Right.
I struggled. I lost my job, 3 years in a row, but every year I got it back because I did this, and this.
And of course, there's the old adage of you can't play, you coach.
Yeah, I think
Byron Leftwich can play, but I'm saying
I think his physically his legs and his body gave out on him. But yeah, I mean he made the most of what he had. I think
agree.
He had a good career, but will that?
I think there's going to be a symbiotic relationship between those two, and I think you're going to see that
you better hope
play out on the field.
Bucs fans
better hope. That's right.
See if it plays out. But that will be interesting. So Mike will be all over the draft. We'll get into that as we move forward. We'll continue to update you on the spring sports, get you ready for spring football practice. Hopefully be out talking to some of these spring sports teams, baseball and softball, and get you some highlights and stories on that. Spring break next week, so everybody will be off.
Yep.
Teachers, coaches, enjoy the break as you get ready for the home stretch of the year, and then we will be back and talk to you on our next Citrus Preps podcast. Anything you're interested in, hit us up on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Let us know if there's an interesting story you want us to talk about, anything we're missing. We'd love to hear from you.
And subscribe to us, and make if you know somebody who'd like to advertise with us, we always could use that a little help out there to offset some of the costs that we're going out. Brett's out there every day trying to get stories and interviewing coaches and getting all the information. So give us a call here.
Getting close to the end, and then we'll re-rack it up for next season when we start the fall sports. It won't be here too long. So enjoy the time off, and we'll talk to you again in a little while. Have a good one.